Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? Welcome to First Cut. This is our review of the new film from Apple Plus called CODA. This came out on streaming as well as certain theaters, but I believe that most people saw it on streaming, at least I think. So shout out to you if you saw it in theaters, but we got to see it. I'm here with Sabrina as usual, and Sabrina also got to see it. I knew nothing about this film going in, so I'm excited to talk to you, Sabrina, going forward about this movie, because I'm very interested to hear your thoughts, because I genuinely didn't know much going into the movie or almost anything at all. I don't think I even saw a trailer for this film. So this was definitely a completely blind experience going into it. But I definitely want to give me your viewing experience first, because I do feel like that's important, the way you saw this movie, and I will definitely tell you about mine. But let's start with yours.
Yeah, now I'm curious. You have me intrigued about your viewing experience, but
It's wild.
I just chilled on this couch right behind me, and I actually just watched it on my laptop. Yeah, so it wasn't anything like super spectacular,
On the
of
streaming app,
course.
Apple TV
Yeah,
streaming.
yeah, on like the streaming app on Apple TV. I did want to go see it in theaters, but unfortunately, it just didn't fit in the cards for the past weekend. But I actually knew quite a bit about this film before going into it. Usually that's not the case, but this one had a lot of hype around Sundance, which is when it premiered. And so I kind of knew the premise. I did see the trailer in theaters when I saw The Green Knight, and I was just really excited because the rave and the hype that was coming out of it for this film just got me excited for it.
Yeah, I definitely had quite an experience. I also saw it on streaming,
Yeah.
but I don't know about you, and I kind of want to open up this conversation. And I know this is supposed to be a review of the film, but I feel like this kind of goes hand in hand with the themes of the film and what audience it's representing. I, I started this movie, Sabrina, and I saw half the movie with no subtitles whatsoever. Not a single subtitle came up. Did you see it with subtitles? It's
Yeah,
supposed
I
to
actually
be
have
with
subtitles.
subtitles,
I have
right?
subtitles on everything. Yeah, the showing at the theater that I was going to go to had
Had
subtitles.
subtitles. So
Yeah.
Apple TV Streaming Plus, the default setting, gave it to me with no subtitles. So I
Hmm.
saw it half with no subtitles, and then I got up to go to the kitchen to literally just put something in the microwave, and I switched to my phone. And when I switched to my phone, it had subtitles on it, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, cool! This one came up with subtitles." And then I said, "Wait a minute, is it supposed to have subtitles this whole time?"
So,
And I looked it
oh,
up, and it's supposed to.
yeah, it is. I don't know if it's because I have subtitles on for literally everything that I watch. It automatically happened for me, as well as like on my laptop, because I did pull it up on my TV for a second, and then I just switched to like be closer to my couch. Both times I had subtitles on, and the theater showing I was supposed to go to had subtitles. So that's kind of interesting. Did you go back and like rewatch it, or did you just roll with it?
No, I did, but you know what's funny? Everything I thought they were saying
Was wrong?
was right. I was
Oh,
spot
was right.
on. And I think part of that is because, so for anyone who doesn't know, CODA is about a child of two deaf parents. The actress's name is Emilia Jones. In the movie, she plays Ruby Rossi. Uh, and she is basically wanting to be a singer. And because she does have an entire uh, uh, deaf family, she cannot express herself in that manner in a way to where she gets that kind of support. So it's an interesting dynamic between putting her family first, but also putting her life first, but also trying to move away from the situation she's in, which is the literally old school fisherman situation where her parents are in the fishing business, and they go out and they catch fish every day. It's a very interesting premise, very interesting movie, but it's done in American Sign Language, or at least I believe in American Sign Language. A lot of the movie is, at least the interactions with the parents, and it's unabashedly done in a manner to where there's entire scenes and entire conversations done in American Sign Language, to which I thankfully had not. I don't know American Sign Language. I won't be that person, but I did grow up around someone who was hearing impaired and did use American Sign Language. And I remember, Sabrina, ever since I was like a teenager, having conversations with this person without speaking a single word of sign language, just literally by what they were expressing.
Yeah.
They would bring up a topic, they would point something out, and I can get the gist of what they were saying, and I can commentate on it, and I can kind of speak to them back in a way, because I use my hands so much, that they kind of understood what I was trying to say as well. So it's very interesting because of that experience that I had. I kind of got the gist of what a lot of the family was saying in this movie without the subtitles. And I thought that was an expression of the filmmaker who wanted it to be without subtitles. But then I found out I was wrong. I was like, did he want that because he felt like that was more raw and real? And I was kind of like, okay, I'm running with it. I'm getting everything they're saying. I'm understanding it. And a lot of it is situational, so it makes sense. So I just think it's funny that that viewing experience is quite remarkable, because I do feel like it's relevant.
That's really interesting. And it honestly, that is just like a testament to how incredible that the actors were.
Yeah,
Every single person was just so expressive, no matter what it
it's
was,
to express.
whether yeah, whether it was the family, even like her choir teacher, so many other people just were giving it their all to really present this film in such a beautiful way. And this is obviously, this is about a teen who is kind of coming into her own with her family and her experience. She has kind of, she goes with them to like doctor's appointments, different things like that. She works for the family, and she kind of has a different life than some of her other classmates do. And she kind of feels like an outsider because of it, because she goes fishing in the morning and then shows up to class without having to take it, or without being able to take a shower, and then kind of smells like fish and has been out there. Her mom makes like a comment in the beginning, and she grows up in a very loving, open, and accepting household. It really, one thing that just stood out to me is how like the film's dynamic, like with the family, how close they all were, how funny they were, because like they couldn't keep things kind of separated from each other. At one point, Ruby goes with them to a doctor's appointment, and they have jock itch, and the doctor's telling them like, hey, you can't have sex, and she has to have those conversations with her parents telling them what the doctor is saying. So they have this inseparable bond and this like unconditional love that I think is just displayed so beautifully. But at the same time, there is that disconnect, because something that she's very passionate about, they just don't understand it as much. And she talks about that. She's like, yeah, my parents kind of know about music. My dad likes rap music. And that's like obviously like really funny parts in the film. But then there's also really beautiful moments that lead to something like this, like when she's singing and he's like touching her throat and he's like feeling the vibrations, and all these different things. I feel like there is so much to absolutely love about this film. Honestly, what were your initial thoughts when you kind of finished it up?
I was loving it. I was loving it even without, fully
Yeah.
getting the subtitle treatment of it as well, just because I felt like I was getting a full experience of the movie. And I thought that was a beautiful experience as well. Both for me worked really well, for sure. Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, Sabrina, I knew it was going to be an in your feels type of movie.
Yeah.
And I felt it. And I was like, oh, damn, I don't know if I'm ready for an in your feels type of movie, but all right, bring it on, bring it on. And then Eugenio Derbez came out. Eugenio Derbez, I just lost my mind. I was like, you're kidding me. Eugenio Derbez is in this movie. For anyone who doesn't know, Eugenio Derbez is like a famous Mexican actor who's been kind of out here grinding in Hollywood for a minute in kind of minor movie roles, but he had a full-blown career back in Mexico. And he's huge. He's like a huge star. Everyone knows who Eugenio Derbez is. My family loves Eugenio. So I thought that was kind of an interesting casting choice as well. I also love the commentary about the kind of the fisherman attitude and the blue collar worker mentality as well, and what they experience being deaf, which only makes it worse for them and their community, because they aren't able to experience anything. There's so many like violations in this movie, like complete disregard for disabled peoples and
Ignorance.
it's ignorance as well. But the idea that like they don't have a translator for anything, they don't allow a translator, I was like, oh my God, like everything here should be paid for in full and presented to, so they have the same opportunities as everyone else, but they aren't allowed this. And I thought that was a very interesting point for sure, because in a lot of places you go now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there is a lot of, attention, or at least in certain places, to the people who have impaired hearing or are deaf, and get the
Even
opportunity.
concerts and music festivals.
If you go to certain movies, there are ways that I feel like I was like, man, they don't get any of that. That I thought was a very relevant topic for sure.
And it goes back to what you're saying kind of about this like blue collar background. This is like a smaller town in Massachusetts. Everybody knows each other. Everybody like kind of grew up with each other, and you can't like escape some of the stuff. She's still being made fun of at school for things that she did as a child that are getting made fun of by the kids because she spoke a certain way and she had like a speech impediment because she grew up around her family. And so there's those moments of insecurity, but her being able to step into this, and it's not like devoid of cliches, but I do think that the balance of bringing something new to a story like this and kind of like showing a different like slice of life and a different experience and perception, even to go so far as like when she's performing at one of the concerts, we see it from the parents' perspective and we hear it from the parents' perspective, and they have like the silence and they're looking around to see when people are like clapping or not. And so it truly immerses us into something that not every single person might understand. And I just feel like that authenticity and everything is what makes it like this. Like you said, this is definitely like a tearjerker. This is about so many people who are on the outside and are striving for something different, whether it's acceptance or whether it's following your own dream and your own passion and kind of being the outsider at school. And I can't think of anything scarier as a high schooler than like going up in front of people and singing different things like that. That's so vulnerable. And her coming into her own in that way was just genuinely so, so beautiful. But again, every single actor, even Ferdia Walsh Pilo, who plays Miles, the person she was doing the duet with, he was in Sing Street. I haven't seen him in anything since then, and he was absolutely fantastic in that one.
I was losing my mind. I was like, I've seen this damn kid. Where have this kid? And I kept saying, is that the Sing Street kid? And I kept repeating it and I kept denying it. I was like, nah, that's not him. I'm doing him dirty. I can't just assume everyone is the Sing Street kid. And I just saw the entire movie just second guessing if that was the kid from Sing Street until I looked it up at the very end. The cast is amazing, and obviously I already mentioned Eugenio Derbez. I think the standout for me is her dad. I think her dad is just really remarkable as a full-blown actor, and obviously she definitely stands out quite a bit as well. I definitely felt like she is one of the major standouts of the movie. I also have to say that the singing, the pitch is a really cool pitch, right? I don't know if it's real or based on anything real, but it's kind of that funny, like, I want to be a singer, but everyone around me doesn't know if I suck or not. Like my family doesn't hear me. So it's kind of hard for me to connect. I can't lie, when the movie opened, and she was blasting that music and singing out loud, and it shows her dad and her brother, who we don't know at that time is her dad and her brother. So I naturally was like, oh, what if they don't want to hear this at full blast? Like, she's being like just so open about it that I'm just like, yo, what if they were like, yo, change the channel, change the music? And then we find out later that it kind of comes full circle, where I was like, oh, I get it. That's why they weren't fazed by it. It's because they weren't even hearing it, which I thought was a cool twist.
Exactly what you said earlier too. They have that conversation, which is why I feel like anybody could really find any pieces like in this film to truly understand and that will resonate with so many others, because like you mentioned, like having this ability, having this gift that the people around you, the people that are the closest to you, don't even know if you're actually even good at it. And the mom, played by Marlee Matlin, the mom makes like a really funny comment. She's like, being that mom, like perfectly encapsulating what it's like to have this like mother-daughter relationship, when she's like, oh, you sing because I'm deaf, what would you be a painter if I was blind, or something like that. And anyone who does anything like creative, I feel like has also kind of had that type of like interaction with their parents, like going back and forth, like, oh, you want to be a writer, all right, like, because they might have not ever read your stuff, they don't know if you're any good. I just feel like so many people, whether it's like our friendship relationships, like striving for something more. There's a lot to really, really enjoy in this film. And I think it's just executed so well. I thought the pacing was incredible. I was so intrigued by every single storyline, whether it was like the brother kind of going off like on his own and doing his own thing at certain points in the film. It just shows a different perspective. And I really, really appreciated this one. I cried so many times during this movie. It was like a perfect cathartic movie to just absolutely fall in love with all the characters. I mean, like, shout out to everybody who worked on this one. I think this is like definitely in my top 5 of this year so far, and it is so solid.
Yeah, I full disclosure, I was like, oh no, don't
Waterworks.
you dare. When it comes to Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now,
Yes.
is literally like, I grew up with that song, Sabrina. It's one of my dad's favorite songs. Like my dad, who's an avid music fan, used to play that around me ever since I was a tiny, tiny kid.
Yeah.
And he still plays it to this day. And I was like, don't you dare play this song and make it about family and make it about leaving your family and all that shit. Like that is like too much to my heart and too close to what I literally have that close connection to it, to where it's like one of my dad's favorite songs and it means so much to him. That one I knew there was going to be a singing part that was emotional and that she sang the whole song because I heard her practicing it with Eugenio. And I was like, I'm ready for it. And I'm always like, I'm not going to do it. I ain't going to cry.
Did you though?
I have to. Yeah. I couldn't help it.
I think this is like the perfect movie. We've talked about like just sometimes a movie comes along at the perfect time. I feel like if anybody is looking for just something that is an absolute ball of energy and warmth and love, it is so charming in all these different ways. I feel like this is the perfect film to watch. If you're looking for that comfort film, this is it.
It's so close, Sabrina, and back me up on this, to being like a family film, like a full blown, you could put this shit on Disney kind of family film if it didn't have like the sexual innuendo stuff, or the sex scenes, I guess. If it did, like it's that kind of like feel good family film type of movie where you can kind of, anyone can watch this, right? Where anyone can kind of sit down and get something out of it for sure, whether it's, you know, the worker mentality, or it's the young girl mentality. If
things
it's
that are expected,
if it's a father, if it's a father, maybe
outsider.
they feel from the father's perspective. It's a mother, they feel from the mother's perspective. Like it has like so many hats that it's putting on that it could almost hit that 4-quadrant model if it only didn't have certain scenes in it.
I do think that I agree with you 100%. If it didn't have those, this would be. I still think it's.
It could have been a 4-quadrant. And it still kind of is. You're right. It's still, you could still like kind of like sneak it in.
Just there. A little bit like mature, a little bit mature of kids. If they're like in like 16, 17, stuff like that, I feel like you could definitely still watch this with your parents and have a really great time. Yeah. It's like Lady Bird or all those other films where it's just mature enough where it's like it skews a little bit older, but like you can still watch it with your family for sure. But this one is definitely so goddamn solid. I cannot stop like singing its praises. And it is actually a remake of a French film from 2014, which I was completely surprised to hear this because I'm kind of like you. I only saw the trailer and heard some things because of the buzz, but I don't really like look into a lot about a film. I kind of want to be surprised as I'm going into this and be taken on this journey. And I'm so happy that I was with this one, but now I'm going to have to look into this other film. But I think this is a very special and important one to kind of like reach out to new audiences. I'm usually not all for like foreign film, like remakes and things like that. Like even when they announced the Parasite show, whatever it is, unless they introduce something kind of new. And I do think, since we were talking about it being like family friendly and things like that, I think them talking about like sex and talking about all these different things adds so much with like the family dynamic. Like it shows like how close they are because that's their only option. Like they have to be that close because she's their translator. She's their like support system in all these different moments. Like you mentioned, they don't have some of the ways of communication with other people unless it's her.
Yeah, it definitely made sense story-wise, and it makes them more transparent and more of that. It also has a comedic take as well, which I think is is a cool,
It's so
interesting
funny.
thing too. It's definitely one of those movies where it's like a classic coming of age / love story movie, and you felt that, especially during certain scenes. So it still is kind of that same, story you've seen before, but from the perspective it shows you, it's such a unique and interesting perspective, and it's such a relevant one that a lot of people don't pay attention to, that should pay attention to, especially in communities that don't have the resources to get what they need in order to even get by in life, and in general, just being the child of two deaf parents has to be something that is tough, and has to be something that is significant on her perspective as well. So you definitely get that broad perspective in that broad type film, which I think is really, really beautiful. So shout out to this movie, and shout out to the cast and the directors and everything they put into it. I hope a lot of people get to see it. I hope a lot of people see it, to be honest. And I just think it's hysterical that I just saw half the movie incorrectly. And I was like, what? Oh, oops. But when I went back, I was like, yo, I got that. I got all this, bro. That's exactly what I thought they said, which I thought it was kind of funny. But yeah, it's a great film, and I really do highly recommend as many people as they can check it out. So thank you guys so much for listening to our review. We appreciate you. Let us know if you've seen CODA yet. Let us know how are you going to see CODA, if you will, if you're going to check it out on streaming or possibly in theaters. Also leave us a comment and let us know what you thought of the film. Sabrina, where can everyone find you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at Sabrina X Monica, also on Twitter at Sabrina on Film.
You can find me on Twitter at Squad Leader Race. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to First Cut if you haven't done so already. We do more reviews, we do movie commentaries, we do movie stuff live. We talk about box office and stuff like that. So we love to talk movies on this channel. So make sure you guys subscribe. Also, make sure you guys follow us on social media at First Cut TMO. Alrighty, guys, the First Cut crew. See you now. Peace.
For you, only one can remain. It's either me or you. Only one can remain. It's either me or you. It's either me or you.